I found the photo on a Tuesday morning in March, and it felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Mark's phone was face up on the kitchen counter, buzzing with a text notification. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. I was making coffee, the same ritual I'd performed every morning for 7 years. Grind the beans, boil the water, wait for him to come downstairs, so we could have those precious 15 minutes together before the chaos of our days began. The screen lit up, and there it was. My sister, my husband, her head resting on his shoulder like it belonged there. His arm wrapped around her waist, fingers splayed possessively across her hip. The background was unmistakable. Our lake house, the one with the blue shutters and the crooked dock that Mark always promised to fix but never did. The one we hadn't visited in months because he claimed he was too busy with work. My hand froze mid-pour. Hot coffee spilled over the edge of the ceramic mug I'd gotten him for our anniversary, the one that said "World's Best Husband" in gold letters. The liquid pooled on the granite countertop, spreading like blood, but I couldn't move. I just stared at that glowing screen like if I looked long enough, the pixels would rearrange themselves into something innocent. A joke. A mistake. Anything but what it actually was. The text beneath the photo was from her. From Jenna, my baby sister. Last weekend was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. Can't wait for the next one. Last weekend, when Mark told me he had an emergency client meeting in Boston. When he'd kissed my forehead at 5 a.m. and whispered that he'd miss me. When Jenna texted me a photo of herself in yoga pants, claiming she was at some spiritual retreat upstate, finding herself or some bullshit like that. I had believed them both. Without question. Without hesitation. Why wouldn't I? One was my husband of 7 years, the man I'd built a life with. The other was my baby sister, the girl I'd raised after our parents died. My whole body started to shake. Not from sadness. Not yet. From rage. Pure, white-hot rage that started in my chest and spread through my veins like poison. I took a screenshot. My fingers were trembling so badly I had to try 3 times before I got it right. Then I went into his messages and scrolled. And scrolled. And scrolled. 6 months. They'd been doing this for 6 months. The messages were sickening. I love yous and miss yous and inside jokes I wasn't part of. Photos I was never meant to see. Plans for a future that didn't include me. In one message from 2 weeks ago, Jenna had written, "Do you think she knows?" And Mark had responded, "No. She's clueless. Too busy with work to notice anything. Clueless." He thought I was clueless. I deleted the notification from his lock screen, my hand steadier now. Placed his phone exactly where it had been, screen down, next to his keys. I cleaned up the spilled coffee with slow, deliberate movements. Wiped down the counter until it gleamed. Poured a fresh cup. Added cream and sugar, just the way he liked it. When Mark came downstairs 20 minutes later, hair still damp from the shower, smelling like the expensive cologne I'd bought him for Christmas, I handed him his coffee with a smile. "Morning, babe," he said, kissing my cheek. His lips felt like ice against my skin. "Morning," I replied. My voice sounded normal. Steady. "How'd you sleep?" "Like a rock." He took a sip of coffee, scrolled through his phone. "I've got back-to-back meetings today. Probably won't be home until 8. "Liar." I nodded sympathetically. "That's rough. Want me to save you some dinner?" "You're the best." Another kiss, this one on my forehead. The same spot he'd kissed before leaving for his fake Boston trip. "Love you." "Love you too," I said. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. I watched him leave. Watched his car pull out of the driveway. Then I walked upstairs to our bedroom, sat on the edge of our bed, the bed where we'd made love and made plans and made promises, and I finally let myself fall apart. But only for 10 minutes. I set a timer on my phone. 10 minutes to cry, to scream into a pillow, to let the grief and betrayal wash over me. When the alarm went off, I stood up, washed my face, fixed my makeup, and got ready for work. Because I had a plan. And people who fall apart don't get revenge. They get pitted. I didn't confront him. Not that day or the next or the one after that. I went to work at the law firm where I'd made partner 2 years ago. I took depositions. I won motions. I smiled at colleagues who asked how married life was treating me. Couldn't be better, I'd say. And they'd never know I was lying. At home, I played the perfect wife. I cooked his favorite meals. I asked about his day and listened to his lies with an attentive expression. I initiated sex twice that week, and each time I watched his face as he moved above me, wondering if he was thinking about her, if he'd touched her the same way, if she'd made the same sounds I made. The wondering almost killed me, but I couldn't let it show. I texted Jenna like nothing had changed. Asked her about work, about her dating life. She responded with heart emojis and lies. Told me about a guy she'd met at a coffee shop, how he'd asked for her number, how she wasn't sure if she should go out with him. You should totally go for it, I texted back. You deserve someone who treats you right. Thanks, sis. Love you. Love you too. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Wanted to show up at her apartment and destroy everything she owned. But I didn't, because rage without strategy is just noise. And I needed to be surgical about this. On Thursday, exactly 1 week after I found the photo, I took a long lunch and drove to a small office in a strip mall 30 minutes from my house. The sign on the door said D. Morrison, Private Investigations. Dennis Morrison was ex-police, late 50s, with a gray beard and kind eyes that had seen too much. He didn't ask unnecessary questions when I showed him the screenshot. Just nodded slowly and said, "How long do you think this has been going on?" 6 months. At least. And you want documentation. Evidence. I want everything. Phone records. Financial statements. Photos. Video if you can get it. I want a case so airtight that he won't even think about fighting me in court. Dennis leaned back in his chair. Most people in your position want to confront immediately. You're being smart about this. I'm a lawyer, I said. I know how this works. Emotion loses cases. Evidence wins them. He quoted me a price. I didn't blink. How soon can you start? I can have someone on him by tomorrow. Do it. I drove back to work and finished out my day like my world wasn't crumbling. That night, Mark came home at 8:30 looking tired. I'd made lasagna, his favorite. We ate together at the kitchen table, the same table where Jenna sat every Sunday for our traditional family dinners. God, how many times had they looked at each other across this table while I was too blind to see it? You okay? Mark asked. You seem quiet. I looked up at him. This man I'd loved since I was 25. This man I'd trusted with everything. Just tired, I said. Work's been intense. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I know I haven't been around much lately. I'm sorry. Things should slow down soon. Another lie. They rolled off his tongue so easily. It's okay, I said. I understand. That weekend, I told Mark I was going to visit my college roommate in Philadelphia. He seemed relieved, probably already texting Jenna to plan another rendezvous at our lake house. I actually drove 2 hours to my friend Sarah's place, showed her everything, and cried on her couch for 3 hours straight. What are you going to do? She asked, handing me another tissue. I'm going to destroy them both, I said. But I need time. I need evidence. I need to be smart. Sarah had been through a brutal divorce 2 years ago. She understood. Don't confront until you have everything lined up. Lawyer, finances, exit strategy. Men like him, they'll make promises, they'll cry, they'll swear it meant nothing. But they'll also hide assets and make your life hell if you give them warning. She was right. I spent that weekend planning. Made lists. Researched divorce attorneys. Opened a separate bank account that Mark didn't know about and started quietly moving money into it. Small amounts he wouldn't notice. Insurance. On Monday, Dennis called. I've got something you need to see. His office smelled like coffee and old paper. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were photos. So many photos. Mark and Jenna at the lake house. Mark and Jenna at restaurants I'd never been to. Mark and Jenna kissing in the parking lot of a hotel. There was a receipt from a jewelry store. Mark had bought her a bracelet. White gold with sapphires. $1,500. I'd never seen her wear it, which meant she was smart enough to hide it from me. There's more, Dennis said quietly. He pulled out another folder. This one was full of financial documents. Bank statements. Transfer records. Mark had opened a separate account. Our joint savings, the money we'd been putting aside for the house renovation, for the future, for the family I thought we were building, he'd been siphoning it off. $20,000 the first month. $15,000 the next. Then $30,000. Then another $25,000. Over 6 months, he'd stolen nearly $90,000 from us. From me. He's planning to leave you, Dennis said. Men don't move this kind of money unless they're preparing for something big. I stared at the numbers. My chest felt tight. Can you prove it's fraud? It's a joint account, so legally he has access. But combined with the adultery, any judge is going to look at this as financial misconduct, especially if he can't account for where the money went. Where did it go? Dennis flipped another page. Some of it went to that separate account. The rest, cash withdrawals. Could be anything. Another property. Gifts for her. Hard to trace. I closed the folder. Looked Dennis in the eye. Keep digging. I want phone records. Emails. Text message logs. Everything. And I want to know every single time they've been together. Every lie he's told me. This is going to get expensive. I don't care. I want him buried. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I smiled at Mark every morning. Made love to him when he wanted. Listened to his fabricated stories about work stress and difficult clients. And the whole time, I was cataloging every lie. Every inconsistency. Every time he said he'd be one place, and Dennis's investigator found him somewhere else. Jenna came over for Sunday dinner like always. She brought wine and hugged me tight, told me she'd missed me, asked how I was doing with my usual wide-eyed concern. I'm good, I said, pouring her a glass of Pinot Grigio. Actually, I'm really good. Work's going great. Mark and I are thinking about starting to try for a baby. I watched her face. The flash of panic she couldn't quite hide. The way her smile went rigid. That's wonderful, she managed. Really wonderful. Mark, standing at the grill in the backyard, had gone completely still. I could see him through the kitchen window, his shoulders tense. Perfect. That night, after Jenna left, Mark was distant. Distracted. He picked at his food. You okay? I asked innocently. Yeah, just a baby. That's a big step. I didn't know you were thinking about that. Well, we're not getting any younger, I said. And I think we're ready. Don't you? He forced a smile. Sure. Yeah, of course. That night, he couldn't get it up. Said he was stressed. I told him it was okay, that we had time. Held him while he pretended to sleep, his body rigid with guilt. Good. Let him suffer. 3 days later, Dennis called again. I've got the phone records. You're going to want to sit down for this. The records showed everything. Texts. Calls. They'd been in contact multiple times a day, every single day, for 8 months. Not 6. 8. Which meant it had started 2 months before our anniversary. Before the trip to Napa I'd planned. Before the party where I'd stood up in front of all our friends and family and talked about how lucky I was to have him. I'd been celebrating our love while he was already fucking my sister. There's something else, Dennis said. He looked uncomfortable. The texts. Some of them are explicit. And some of them are about you. He showed me. Messages where they laughed about me. About my long hours at work. About how I was too serious and no fun anymore. One message from Jenna said, she's so focused on her career, she doesn't even see what's right in front of her. Mark had responded, that's why I need you. You make me feel alive again. I read every single message. Let each one cut deeper. Let the pain turn into something cold and hard and useful. When I was done, I looked up at Dennis. I need one more thing. I need you to document their next meeting. Video if possible. I want proof that can't be denied. You got it. I went home that night and told Mark I loved him. Kissed him deeply. Made him dinner. And when he held me on the couch afterward, I memorized the weight of his arm around my shoulders. This was the last time I would touch him as a wife who loved him. Because after tomorrow, everything would change. The video Dennis got was damning. Mark and Jenna at the lake house, visible through the windows. Kissing in the kitchen, his hands under her shirt, her laughing as she pulled him toward the bedroom. I watched it once. Only once. Then I made copies. So many copies. On a Thursday afternoon, I walked into the office of Catherine Chun, the best divorce attorney in the state. She'd won cases that seemed unwinnable. She was ruthless and expensive and exactly what I needed. I laid out everything. The photos. The financial records. The text messages. The video. Catherine listened without interrupting. When I was done, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. I can work with this. In fact, this might be one of the cleanest cases of adultery and financial misconduct I've seen in years. You'll get everything. The house. The cars. Most of the assets. And with the fraud, we can push for damages. I want more than that, I said. I want him to lose his job. His reputation. Everything. We can make his life very difficult, Catherine said carefully. But destroying someone completely, that's not always legal. Then I'll do the illegal parts myself. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't argue. That weekend, I told Mark I needed to talk. We sat in the living room, and I looked him in the eyes. "I'm pregnant," I said. The color drained from his face. "What?" I placed my hand on my stomach, a gesture I'd practiced in the mirror until it looked natural. I took 3 tests. They were all positive. "We're going to have a baby." I wasn't pregnant. It was a lie. But I needed to see how he'd react. Needed to know if there was any part of him that still cared about me. Mark stood up, paced the room, ran his hands through his hair. "Are you sure? Maybe the tests were wrong." "Maybe." "I'm sure," I said quietly. "I have a doctor's appointment next week to confirm." He looked at me like I was a stranger, like I'd just destroyed his life. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that he'd already chosen her. That this baby, this future, this life we'd built together, it meant nothing to him. "Okay," he finally said. His voice was hollow. "Okay, that's great. Really great." He went upstairs. I heard the shower turn on. Heard him on the phone, his voice low and urgent. Probably calling her. Probably panicking. Good. Let them both panic. I let the pregnancy lie sit for exactly 1 week. Watched Mark spiral. He started drinking more. Stopped sleeping. Would stare at me across the breakfast table with this haunted expression. Jenna called me, her voice shaky. "I heard the news. Congratulations." "Thanks," I said brightly. "I'm so excited. You're going to be an aunt." She started crying. Actually crying. "I'm happy for you," she choked out. "So happy." On day 7, I came downstairs in the morning, clutching my stomach, tears streaming down my face. "I'm bleeding," I told Mark. "Something's wrong." We went to the hospital. I played the part perfectly. The worried almost mother. The devastated wife. The doctor, who I'd briefed beforehand about what I needed, came in with a sympathetic expression. "I'm sorry," she said. "There's no heartbeat. You've had a miscarriage." Mark held me while I cried. Real tears this time, because I wasn't crying for a baby that never existed. I was crying for the life I thought I had. The family I thought we were building. The sister I thought I knew. The husband I thought loved me. I sobbed into his chest, and he said all the right things. Whispered that we'd try again. That it would be okay. That he loved me. And I hated him for every word. That night, after he fell asleep, I got out of bed. Went to my home office. Transferred every penny from our joint account into my personal account. Deleted the transfer from his notifications. Then I sent an email to Catherine Chin. "I'm ready. File the papers." And I called Jenna. "We need to talk," I said. My voice was ice. "Tomorrow. Noon. The coffee shop on Maple Street." "About what?" She sounded scared. "Be there, Jenna. Or I'll come to your apartment, and we'll have this conversation where all your neighbors can hear." She was there at 11:45, sitting in the back corner, looking small and terrified. I ordered 2 coffees, sat down across from her, and slid a manila envelope across the table. "Open it." Her hands shook as she pulled out the contents. Photos, text messages, bank statements, the video on a USB drive. All the evidence. Everything I had. She went pale, then green. "How long have you known?" "Long enough," I said. "Long enough to document everything. Long enough to hire a lawyer. Long enough to make sure that when I destroy him, you go down too." "Please," she whispered. "Please, I'm so sorry. It just happened. We didn't mean." "Stop." My voice cut through her excuses like a blade. "Don't you dare tell me it just happened. Nothing just happens for 8 months. You chose this. Every single day. Every single lie. You chose him over me." She was crying now, mascara running down her face in black rivers. "I love him." I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bitter, broken. "You don't even know what love is. Love is what I did for you. Raising you when mom and dad died. Working 2 jobs to pay for your college. Holding you when you cried over boys who didn't deserve you. Sacrificing my 20s so you could have a future. That was love, Jenna. This," I gestured at the photos. "This is just betrayal. What are you going to do?" I leaned forward, my voice deadly calm. "I'm going to divorce Mark. And I'm going to take everything. The house. The cars. The retirement accounts. Every penny he tried to steal from me. My lawyer says with the financial fraud and the adultery, I'll get it all. But that's not enough." Her eyes went wide. "What do you mean?" "I mean you're going to help me. You're going to do exactly what I tell you. Because if you don't, I will send all of this to everyone you know. Your boss, your friends, that yoga studio where you teach. Every single person in your life will know exactly who you are. What you are. What do you want me to do? I smiled. It was the cruelest smile I'd ever worn. You're going to break his heart. You're going to tell him it was all a mistake, that you were confused, that you could never really leave me, your sister, the woman who raised you. You're going to destroy him the way you both destroyed me. I can't. You can. And you will. And you're going to do it at Mom's birthday dinner. In front of the whole family. That's in 2 days. I know. Better start rehearsing. She stared at me, horror and understanding dawning on her face. You've planned all of this. Every single detail. See, that's the difference between you and me, Jenna. You act on impulse. On feelings. On whatever makes you feel good in the moment. But I think. I plan. I execute. I stood up, leaving the photos and evidence on the table. 2 days. Mom's birthday. You tell him it's over. You do it in front of everyone. You make sure they all know what you've done. Or I release everything. And if I do this, if I humiliate myself and him, you'll let it go. I looked down at her, this girl I'd raised, this woman I'd loved more than anyone. No, I said softly. I'll never let it go. But I'll keep the evidence private. That's the best you're going to get. I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. Saturday came. Mom's birthday dinner at Aunt Marie's house. 23 people gathered in the dining room and spilling into the living room. Cousins, uncles, aunts, family, friends. People who'd known us our whole lives. Who'd watched me raise Jenna. Who thought of us as the model of sisterly love. Mark wasn't there. I'd told him it was family only, and he'd seemed relieved. Probably grateful for a night without having to pretend. Dinner was loud and warm, full of laughter and stories. I played my part perfectly. Smiled. Hugged everyone. Told funny stories about work. Jenna sat across from me, barely eating, her face pale and drawn. When dessert was being served, I stood up and tapped my wine glass with a fork. The room quieted, all eyes turning to me. I want to make a toast, I said. My voice was steady, strong. To Mom. Happy birthday. And thank you for teaching Jenna and me what family means. What loyalty means. I paused, let the weight of those words sink in. Which is why what I'm about to say is so painful. The room went silent. Confused looks. Concerned murmurs. Most of you don't know this yet, but Mark and I are getting divorced. Gasps. Aunt Marie's hand flew to her mouth. My cousin Sarah started to stand up, probably to comfort me, but I held up a hand. The reason we're divorcing is because Mark has been having an affair. For 8 months. With someone in this room. Now the silence was absolute. Shocked. Horrified. Everyone looking around, trying to figure out who it could be. I looked directly at Jenna. Her face was white as paper. Stand up. She didn't move. Jenna, stand up. Slowly, like a puppet on strings, she rose from her chair. My sister, I said, and my voice finally cracked. My baby sister. The girl I raised after our parents died. The girl I put through college. The girl I loved more than anyone in this world. She's been sleeping with my husband. The room exploded. Shouting. Crying. Aunt Marie was screaming. Uncle Tom was demanding to know if it was true. Cousins were yelling at Jenna, at me, at each other. Jenna was sobbing, trying to speak, but no one could hear her over the chaos. It's true, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. Every word. 8 months. Our lake house. Hotels. He stole $90,000 from our joint account to fund it. And I looked at my sister. She lied to my face every single day. I picked up my purse. Set down my wine glass. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't want to ruin your birthday. But I couldn't keep pretending anymore. And I walked out. Behind me, the shouting continued. I could hear Aunt Marie screaming at Jenna. Could hear my cousin demanding answers. Could hear my sister's sobs. I got in my car and drove home. And finally, I felt something break loose in my chest. The rage. The pain. The betrayal. It all came pouring out in a scream that lasted until my throat was raw. But when the screaming stopped, I felt lighter. Freer. Like I'd cut out a cancer that had been eating me alive. The divorce took 3 months. Mark tried to fight it first, but Catherine destroyed him. The evidence was airtight. The judge awarded me the house, both cars, 70% of our assets, plus the $90,000 he'd stolen, plus damages for emotional distress. In total, I walked away with nearly everything we'd built together. Mark moved in with Jenna for about 2 months. Then she dumped him. Exactly like I'd told her to. Told him she couldn't live with the guilt. That she'd made a mistake. That destroying her relationship with me was the biggest regret of her life. I know because she sent me a 12-page letter explaining everything. How he'd cried. How he'd begged. How he'd told her he'd given up everything for her. I burned the letter without finishing it. Jenna moved to Oregon 6 months later. Couldn't handle the shame. The judgment. Our family had completely cut her off. Aunt Marie wouldn't speak to her. Our cousins blocked her on social media. She texts me sometimes. Long apologies. Explanations. Justifications. I delete them without reading. Mark tried to reach out once. Showed up at my new house, the smaller place I'd bought across town with my settlement money. He stood on my porch and told me he'd made a mistake. That he was sorry. That he still loved me. I looked at him, this man I'd once loved so completely, and felt absolutely nothing. You should go, I said. Please. Can we just talk? No. We can't. You made your choice. Now live with it. I closed the door in his face and never saw him again. A year later, I started dating someone new. Someone I met through work. Someone kind and honest who looks at me like I'm the only person in the room. When he asked me if I had any siblings, I smiled and said, "No, I'm an only child." He accepted that without question. Because the truth is, I am an only child now. The girl I raised, the sister I loved, she died the day she betrayed me. And I'm not mourning her anymore. I'm thriving. I got promoted to senior partner at my firm. Bought a beautiful house with a garden. Started traveling. Made new friends. Built a life that doesn't include liars and cheaters and people who take my love for granted. And sometimes late at night, I think about them. Wonder if they ever found happiness. If it was worth it. If they lie awake thinking about what they lost. But then I remember that I don't actually care. Because the best revenge wasn't the divorce or the money or the public humiliation. The best revenge was realizing I was better off without either of them. The best revenge was choosing myself. And I've never looked back.